Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, the Super Mario Bros. Movie has grossed enough to earn 10 million one-ups. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the Super Mario Bros. Movie grossing over $1 billion. And then on Thursday, we are ranking the armor sets, or dare I say the looks, in Breath of the Wild. But in the meantime, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Ooh, I love that spin on what we're going to be talking about in Breath of the Wild.
Because here's the thing. We're going to be talking about, truly they are armor sets, and that's how the game bills them. But, and I know you and I will bring some of the functionality, I think we are going to heavily rely on what they look like and what Link looks like in them.
I mean, that definitely sounds like us.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's going great. I think on Thursday last week, we were talking about cats, and I was talking about how my husband and I have been, in the past 6-9 months, just sending a lot of cat videos back and forth. I have to say, my husband's tastes, I think he needs something stronger, is what I'm saying. He's seen all the cute, fluffy cats.
I see.
He's seen all the adorable cats with short little legs and lots of fur.
Right.
And he's moving on to the more hardcore stuff. He's moving on to, and I'm not ready for this yet, the Sphinx cats. The cats with no fur. And he keeps telling me, he keeps sending me these.
No, they're weird little gremlins.
He keeps sending me these pictures. And he's like, this one's so cute. But it just looks like a really wrinkly sausage.
I mean, once you start doing that, Mark, you can't go back, right?
This is my fear.
Yeah.
We've both been walking hand in hand into this world of cats, right? And so all this time, I thought in my heart and in my mind that when we adopted a cat, which feels like an inevitability,
yes,
it would have fur.
Right.
And yet,
I would say a reasonable assumption.
And yet,
right. Becoming less and less likely as days go by.
Becoming less and less of a certainty. Although it's possible, at the moment it doesn't feel this way, but it is possible that I also will learn to love.
It's inevitable. You're going down the same dark trail.
But I just want, and I guess this would be good for you because you're allergic.
I'm allergic, yes.
But I would like you to picture for a moment, you come over to record
sure,
an episode.
Okay, right.
I have not warned you.
Right, I'm putting myself in this headspace. I have not been warned.
These little flesh monsters just skitter.
Monsters? You're gonna get several?
Well, from what I've been reading, it seems this is cats in general. Sometimes it's good to have. It seems counterintuitive.
This is like how they say you can't have one chinchilla
or one guinea pig because they get lonely.
Well, yeah,
they can entertain each other.
Yeah, I guess that is nice, but you work from home. You could entertain the cat or the chinchilla or the guinea pig all day.
I'm just, it's a worry.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to put myself in the scenario. I come over. I've not been warned.
No.
There are multiple fleshy monsters stalking about your house. Yeah, I guess I'm probably fine with it. I mean, I will be able to function as a normal person when we record.
Yes, you wouldn't have any allergic reaction.
Right.
A major concern. Maybe that's what's led Clement down this road anyways.
I mean, I hope he's not making pet decisions based on just me. I'm here every week, but I'm here for 2 hours every week, and that shouldn't change your whole lives. Mark, I saw the Return of the Jedi in the theaters this weekend.
How was that?
It was great. I realized that was the only Star Wars movie I had yet to see in the theater. That I had seen the A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back when they were re-released in the mid 90s, and everything else I saw opening night. So that was the last one that I hadn't seen, and now I've seen them all.
That sounds amazing.
I have made my peace with the lack of Yub Nub at the end of these special editions.
I mean, at this point, probably it's been Yub Nub less for longer than it was ever Yub Nub.
I mean, I guess did that sequence change after? It must have changed after the prequels came out, though, right? Because there's Force Ghost Hayden Christensen.
Well, there have been multiple
re-releases
alterations to Return of the Jedi.
But are you saying Yub Nub has been gone since like 1997 or something?
Since the special edition, yeah.
Wow. Okay. And I gotta say, I have not made peace with the extra song in Jabba's palace.
Oh,
it's an atrocity. I don't need it. I don't want it.
It has English lyrics if you want to learn them.
I don't.
We could sing it on this show. No. We'll save it for the Patreon.
Patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society if you would like to support us and I guess hear us sing the bad song from the Return of the Jedi. It's never going to happen. You can go there and you can support us at the 4-bit tier, the 8-bit tier, or the 16-bit tier. At 8 and 16, you get access to NCS Detective Club, which is a miniseries that we're doing on the great detective shows of television history.
That's right. And you can also help us decide what the next miniseries we're going to do on the show is. There will be a poll going up shortly. And
this week,
that's
we're putting up that poll.
We're putting up the poll this week. So patrons will be able to help us decide the next miniseries that we'll be doing, like what bonus episodes will be about.
But in the meantime, we've got a new episode of NCS Detective Club coming out this Friday. It is on Agatha Christie's Marple, a very fun conversation about 2 pretty good episodes of that show. So check that out. Also, if you would like to get in our Discord where people are having conversations about Nintendo and these same detective shows pretty much all the time, all you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and we will send you an invitation and you can jump in and join in on the fun. Mark, I've got some emails I'd like to address with you. From our listeners. Email from Steven. Steven writes, "Howdy, Mark and Patrick. I was listening to the episode where you were discussing Rift of the NecroDancer and how it had lane combat more in common with most rhythm games. And then I had this brain blast. First, those developers made Crypt of the NecroDancer, followed by Cadence of Hyrule. What if Rift of the NecroDancer is followed by Rift of the Donkey Konga?"
Oh my gosh.
Working title, of course.
Why? That's perfect.
I mean, yeah, it's exactly right. Y'all were talking about why we haven't gotten another Cadence of Hyrule type indie game spinoff, indie Nintendo spinoff. I wonder if you might do an episode where you pitch indie spinoffs a la Cadence of Hyrule with Nintendo IP and indie devs. We actually have done this. When Cadence of Hyrule came out, we did an episode, or when it was announced, we did an episode where we were pitching indie devs making Nintendo spinoffs. Steve says, "Love the show. Thanks for being awesome." That's a great idea. It would be a pointless exercise to do now because you have pitched the best idea, Steve.
Yeah, Steven, that's so good. Man, how amazing would it be if that a Rift of the Donkey Konga was timed to that much rumored Nintendo Donkey Kong platformer?
Yeah.
You know, like how they're teeing everything up for Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean,
it's so good.
There's you know how they can support Metroid Prime remaster coming out at the same time as Metroid Fusion on the GBA.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and they have decades now more of pop songs that they can have cover bands do covers of.
Sure. I mean, we don't need to be relegated to just all the small things from Blink-182.
Although that should be in there because that's a Donkey Kong classic at this point.
It's true. And then we got another email from Noah. So strap in here, Mark. Noah writes, "Hey, everyone. Why did you guys put the Lightning in the A tier ranking?" He's talking, of course, about our Mario Kart item ranking. "I'm currently listening to it and getting upset about your placement. The Lightning is the bane of my existence. Let me preface, I play a lot of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with my siblings, and I am generally in the front of the pack. It stinks to get lightninged when you have a red shell, especially when you are in first place or when you're in first place and have a super horn. This has happened to me plenty of times, as I usually hold on to my horn until a blue shell comes around. I have played over 3,000 hours on Mario Kart Wii, which I grew up on. Lightning, especially the Lightning Cloud, stinks in that game. I've often been in the middle of a shortcut and gotten lightning, and then I'm just screwed. I'm small and I don't have the mushroom boost that I was using. Besides lightning, I think you did a great job with your ranking, so I just wanted to give you a hard time with it. Appreciate your podcast and listened to it for 2 years now. Thank you very much, Noah. Why did we put the lightning in the A rank?
Okay, I think Noah makes a ton of good points.
Great points.
But my memory, and I think how we can still, I mean, it is a definitive ranking, but we put ourselves on both sides of it, which is how I think we were able to put it into the A tier, because it's an equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difference maker, which not very many items in Mario Kart are.
True.
It can be anyways. And then also, like, yes, on the side of, especially if you're in first place with a red shell, I mean, the dream. I
mean, that's why the red shell is so high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're in first place with the red shell. You get lightninged. That's bad. That feels bad. But on the other side of it, if you're the one who's engaging the lightning, that's an amazing feeling. So
Engage the Lightning is my favorite Led Zeppelin song, by the way.
So we were, it'd be great in Rift of the Donkey Konga. So we're trying to look at all the angles.
Yes.
And, so yes, when you're in that leader position, it stinks. But otherwise, lightning can be a lot of fun.
I also like being in third or fourth place and someone else drops a lightning, because you are small for less time. Like, it feels like a very dynamic item in that, like, it changes everyone's psychology instantly. That everyone has to be like, okay, we all have new information. Let's all do that. So I do think it's a fun dynamic item. Noah does write a little bit more that I was going to skip, but I actually think it's funny. One request I have, this is Noah. One request I have is, will you guys please do an episode series where you rank every Pokemon? I wrote in for Mario Kart for the Mario Kart ranking last August, and would love to do so again. Okay, I mean, Mark. First of all, we do not know the Pokemon very well, and there's over 1,000 of them.
I love that idea.
There were 48 Mario Kart tracks.
Yeah, I love that idea. I don't know how we will do it yet, but this should.
Yeah, it's the wheels are turning in Mark's head.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
I feel like
I can see it. He wants to work it out. I feel like that's maybe just what the show is in 2024. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate both of you writing in. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Tetris 99 ticket update.
It's a Tetris 99 ticket update. Is that what I did last week?
You did something different last week.
Yeah.
I mean, different from what you used to do.
Uh-huh.
But I don't remember if it was that.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I now have 760 tickets.
Wow.
Which is a 21 more than last week.
That's right. Hitting that 20 goal. That was the goal, right? 20 every week.
20 per week is the goal. Yeah. So that's this week we are just slightly above goal. So that's good.
Putting on my coach hat for a second. Keep it up, champ. Removing my coach hat.
Thank
it's
you.
A cute
Goodbye.
hat.
It is a cute hat. I like it. Did you pay too much for it?
Of course.
Mark, I am almost done now with the Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster, a game that I have absolutely loved playing. And since you and I talked, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm now just turning on the 4x experience boost, and will be like making my way through a dungeon, then turn off random encounters, because I'm like, that's enough, right? Like I've gained enough levels here. I have now stopped turning off the random encounters, because even at 4x experience, I need to grind in Final Fantasy IV.
Oh, really?
I mean, it is such a old school RPG, and I think this is the original Japanese balance for the game, which was notoriously tough, right? And that they scaled way down for the US release. And they made the right choice in scaling it down for the US release, because it's there's a while where I'm cruising through and I'm just mowing guys down, right? 4 times experience. I'm having a great time. But then I get into this like final cave on the moon, and it's just like so hard. Like my characters are level 70, right?
That's so
super
wild.
high level. They've got a ton of magic, spells that deal obscene amounts of damage, and like everyone has awesome equipment, and there's still like I gotta like really use all of their abilities and like items and it goes on and on and on, and it's just like, how did I ever do this when I was like 12? And so it's still a surprisingly tough Final Fantasy game, even with the 4 times experience boost. I'm obviously going through it a lot faster because I've not had to just like sit in a circle and grind.
Yeah.
But you know, so I'm about 12-ish hours in, and I do think I'm coming up on the end shortly here. But I'm loving it. Love this game.
Like like everything that you've described in previous weeks about the Pixel Remasters sounds amazing. But then when you were like, I'm at 12 hours and I think I'm almost done with it, like my ears perked up.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
did that?
Do I need to?
Yeah.
Maybe I should, because that sounds great. I would love to be able to experience some of these old school, you know, like Final Fantasy games that I've never played and not have to spend an eternity doing it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think this is the key. This is how you do it. You can turn on like fast walk speed. You can turn on like auto battle if you don't want to do it. Although the auto battle seemingly just does whatever you told them to do last round again.
Oh.
So like if you are healing someone, then like you have to turn the auto thing off when it gets to the healer's turn. Otherwise, they'll just heal again.
Got it. Yeah.
But it's that speeds up the battle as well. So like there's a lot that you can do to make the whole game go faster. And at least in Final Fantasy IV, it does not feel like it's taking anything away from the gameplay experience. I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. I have been continuing to play Super Mario Galaxy.
Yes.
I don't really have anything new to say about it. Look, I'm about to say something negative about Super Mario Galaxy, and I said it last week.
And I will leave.
But I just need to reiterate it. But before I reiterate the negative, I need to reiterate the positive and say Super Mario Galaxy is an amazing game. It holds up amazingly well. It's visually really beautiful, and the music is amazing. Like, I love Super Mario Galaxy. That being said, this camera is pretty bad.
You gotta stop trying to control the camera, Mark.
This is the same exact problem and the same exact conversation.
Yes.
We had a lot when I was playing Super Mario 64. And
it seems like it's worn off, though.
Yeah.
The advice doesn't work on you
because
anymore.
it feels so much like I should be able to control the camera kind of to the same degree that you would in like Odyssey or something, but you absolutely cannot. And I am totally fighting the camera sometimes, especially when I'm swimming underwater.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in some of these like sphere shapes planets, and the camera is just, it feels like it's doing whatever it wants to do. I'm not being able to see what I want to see. Like, Super Mario Galaxy definitely shows its age. It's also, I just want to add that it, like, going from playing Sunshine is the last like game that I played in the All-Stars collection before I put it down. And, you know, I hadn't revisited Sunshine for like 15 years or something when that happened, when I played it on the Switch. And I feel like at the time, you know, Sunshine has had a rough reputation, and Galaxy was kind of like, here, Mario's back, you know, like, Mario's amazing. They're not that different.
I can't go with you on this.
I mean,
I
like,
hard disagree. I mean, they are different.
Like,
they're hugely different games.
It's not as big of I really, truly do not think it's as big of a leap from Sunshine to Galaxy as...
in terms of, like, quality.
Like, terms of, like, mechanics. Like, Galaxy's a way better game. I'm not saying that Sunshine is like, or that they're even like equal games.
But let's throwing quality aside, I don't think that they're that similar at all.
Oh, I actually like, I don't agree. Playing them now, they don't feel that far removed.
So
like, it feels like Galaxy really is in a lot of ways just taking another stab at what they did a lot of in Sunshine.
See, where I disagree with you is that I think you know, obviously in any Mario game, you're like running, jumping, platforming, all that kind of stuff. But I think in Sunshine, that is a vehicle towards exploration, and in Galaxy, it is a vehicle towards like obstacle course clearance. That even though Galaxy is a 3D game, it's not really about exploring that space. It's about getting from one area to the next, right? Like it's not linear, but it's sort of linear. Whereas Sunshine is like, here I'm dropping you into this open space, and Galaxy like dabbles in that from time to time, but I feel like, and just as Sunshine also dabbles in like, here's the obstacle course part of it, but I feel like it just samples obstacle coursing, and Galaxy just samples exploration.
Yeah, I don't. Can I ask when the last time you played Sunshine was?
When the All-Star Collection came out.
So because I feel like,
and I didn't finish it.
I feel like again, I feel like they're not,
because it's not as good of a game.
I feel like they're not as removed as like I think what you're saying is absolutely true in that like Galaxy is we'll say course correction to there is less of that like, hey, you have flood, so we're gonna put you into this space where you just have to figure out how you're going to get from here to there, and and it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Like Galaxy definitely course corrects away from that a lot, and it does become more like level based and obstacle course based, but not, I think, to the degree that, in my opinion, to the degree that you're saying. Like I don't think that they're, because the structure of a lot of the Sunshine levels is really exactly what you're describing for Galaxy. There are just, especially in the early parts of the game, like examples of where they're not doing that. I'm not saying that Sunshine and Galaxy are like on the same level. I just don't think that at the time, even I thought Galaxy is like, wow, like what a radical departure from what they messed up with Sunshine. And now I don't feel that way. I actually feel like it's like Sunshine just feels unpolished, but if they had had more time to be able to, like complete it, I just don't know that that's how I'm feeling at the moment.
But Galaxy has a Luma who offers you a 1-up or extra life and says, Luma Lee, Luma Bop, welcome to my Luma shop.
Yeah, I mean, it cannot be stated enough. Galaxy is a much better game. Or when you're feeding all the star bits to the Lumas, and then they like shake their little star maracas and explode into a galaxy.
They get so full.
It's so fun.
I'm still playing Pikmin Bloom, of course. It is how I go for walks. It is how I send postcards of, my local deli to our listeners elsewhere in the world. Having a great time with it. I love that people keep people in either like in my circle of like people I genuinely know in person, or people that I know from the Discord, that we're all just like on these little missions together. It's very fun. I'm very much enjoying Pikmin Bloom.
The part that I love being able to experience through the Discord is people will post kind of their like weird or interesting location based Pikmin, because I didn't realize this was part of the game, but like if you get a Pikmin from like around a dentist office,
right?
They will have like
sometimes he has toothpaste on his head.
Yeah, like toothpaste hair, like just like a toothbrush, like stuck to him. Those are great. Those are really funny. I didn't realize that was part of it.
I picked up one by a burger place, and he's got like 2 French fries sticking out of him.
So good.
He's great. All right, Mark. Let's get it. That's what we've been playing. We have a real transition for this. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Everyone's kind of holding back.
Yeah, this is why I screwed up the transition, is that there's nothing in here that we're going to be playing next week.
Not really. We're basically a little over 1 week away from Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
And that's what everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, there is, let's see, on the new release list here, there's a tumbleweed drifting by.
Yes. There is like personification, like the personification of an ellipses.
Yep. And then there's, of course, an eerie breeze blowing through the tree branches.
But that's pretty much it.
Mark, I have a theory, though.
Yeah.
And this theory relates to Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass. It has been now roughly 2 months since we last got a Game Boy Advance game. On March 8th, I want to say,
Fusion?
Was when we got Fusion, yes, Metroid Fusion. Yes, it was March 8th, so it has been 2 months. It is possible that this week will be the week that we get news about a new GBA game. Obviously we got Pokemon Stadium on April 12th, so maybe it's more like the second week of the month is when they're, and by the sounds of it, maybe they're in an alternating between those two, one GBA game, one Nintendo 64 game, but we'll see. So I think it's possible that we get a GBA game. I don't think it has to be one of the ones that they've already said.
No, it seems like after the...
Because Fusion was not on the initial salvo of
okay.
here are the other games that are coming.
Yeah, so it seems like it could be anything.
The games that they did announce would be coming at some point include Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Fire Emblem, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Golden Sun, and Fire Emblem The Binding Blade. So it could be one of those, or it could be anything else. We did just get Sega Genesis games, of course, just like a week or so ago, but those are on like an almost quarterly schedule at this point. So I don't think that really figures into the rest of this. And not that there's any pattern that we're ever really going to be able to divine from this, but I just worked up a big comprehensive spreadsheet of when games have come out when.
I love it.
And I want a way to visualize it on like a chart to be like this many at this point, and you can see the line go up. But I'm not quite there yet. So maybe we'll get a GBA game this week or next week.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have another data point for your chart.
Love data points. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, you've posed a question here in our show notes.
Yeah, I'm curious if you have currently or have in the past had any irrational fears. And I have one that I can share to prime the pump.
Sure.
From childhood.
Sure, to get me to really open up.
Exactly, yeah. So when I was 6 years old, we went to Universal Studios Hollywood for the first time. And back then, before it burned down in 2012 or something like that, there was a King Kong segment where instead of being a 3D movie like it is now, it was big physical sets that was New York City, and then you were crossing the Brooklyn Bridge or something, and there was an enormous King Kong animatronic.
As seen in the movie The Wizard.
Yes, that's right. And I even from a young age really liked theme parks, thought that was incredible, liked those animatronics, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought it was so cool, but also I had an irrational fear that that if I was in a swimming pool, in the deep end, and I touched the drain at the bottom of the pool, that that King Kong animatronic would come up out of the pool. And that
if you touch the drain?
Yeah, that's right. And that was
is King Kong in a pool?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. And that's the part that made it irrational, Patrick.
Okay, sure.
Is that it was water specific.
I mean, I've heard people say that in a pool I would be scared of Jaws.
Sure.
The shark coming to eat me. I know the shark's name isn't Jaws. I don't care. That's also irrational.
Yes.
But at least you can connect the dots of I get that.
Sure.
What that's very strange. So I don't my brother was afraid of E.T. when we went on the E.T. ride is that in Universal?
Also Universal, yeah.
In Orlando, though. He was terrified of E.T. Probably hadn't seen the movie at that point, which, E.T. separate the context of the movie E.T. Maybe kind of scary. So, I guess I get it. But I'm trying to... I feel all of my fears are either justified or fit under blanket anxiety.
Sure, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, you've always been a man of reason.
Thank you. I will, just to reiterate this story of when I was a child, I was afraid of trying pizza. And I, when it was offered to me, I was like, I can't believe they're going to make me try to eat this thing. And I said that I will like it when I turn 5. Not that I would try it, but that I would like it. So, does that count as an irrational fear? I don't know. We were accompanied today by the Berliner Philharmoniker. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
This past weekend, the Super Mario Brothers movie box office has exceeded over $1 billion worldwide.
Yep. They hit that Dr. Evil number. There's no slowing down.
It's the 5th movie to do so since the pandemic. And it's the 11th animated movie to reach $1 billion and the first animated movie since the pandemic started to reach $1 billion.
We were talking about this a little bit in the Discord. Do you think it's why do we put animated movies in like a different category when talking about like there's a separate category for Academy Awards?
Yeah,
this is separate. I mean, it is possibly just like an arbitrary talking point for discussing like high box office returns. That like this is the 11th animated film to cross $1 billion. Like, why do we do this? Just to have like another data point?
So I think that's part of it. Because I mean, we also talk about the highest grossing
superhero
Marvel
movie,
or
yeah,
like
that's true.
superhero movie or like something like that. But why is there like a separate category for it in like the Oscars? And partly why do we talk about it that way? Because I do think that culturally, especially in America, we consider animated movies to be like children's movies.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So they're not worthy of being considered next to a live action movie.
Let's bring this controversy from the Discord onto the onto the microphone. Lion King, the Lion King
such
remake.
Nonsense.
This is nonsense because it is counted among and it's the highest grossing animated film of all time, even though it is billed as the Lion King live action remake. Obviously, it is totally computer generated. It is a cartoon. What is it? An animated movie? Like, what rules is it playing by?
Yeah, whatever marketing thinks will help us succeed the most.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Super Mario Brothers movie, after 26 days in theater, it's now Universal's 7th highest grossing movie ever. And the health of Mario's performance boosted the average box office for April to above the pre-pandemic monthly average.
For the first time in the pandemic.
Wow.
That the movies are back, I guess is what we're saying. Movies are back above the pre-pandemic average.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, the movie's making a lot of money. I guess is there other stuff out right now that people are going to see? The Mario kind of made everything else back down, right?
Yeah, I don't really know that there is.
We got a Marvel movie coming out this week.
Oh my gosh, is that this Friday?
It's Friday, yeah. Guardians 3 comes out this Friday.
Wow. We should talk about that in new releases.
Yes, I mean that would actually be something that we know is coming out.
Yeah. The UK regulatory agency, the Competition and Markets Authority, or the CMA, announced last Friday that they were blocking Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard, citing not only exclusivity on platforms as a problem, but also potential exclusivity on streaming platforms as being anti-competitive. Because Microsoft is already such a dominant, this is their argument, that Microsoft is already such a dominant force in cloud gaming with Game Pass that if they acquired Activision Blizzard, they wouldn't even have to make the games exclusive in order to hinder competition in cloud gaming. They could just make like the terms really onerous and that kind of stuff.
Right, and I think that's especially relevant because like the Xbox like streaming tech, right? The ability to play games on their like cloud gaming service is the technology of it is like the kind of the weakest of like if you compare it to what Stadia was doing or like Amazon Luna, that like that tech is better, but if they then get in a position where their tech is worse, but they also are the only ones that have Diablo 4, that like it makes sort of the less good tech the winner.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was part of it.
I mean, I believe that. I guess I don't know why else it would be the part of it. but like I guess that also kind of like swings against the idea that like Nintendo always has like the weakest tech on the market, but games that they are like fiercely protective of being exclusive to the Nintendo platforms. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, here's where the rubber meets the road for our show, which talks about Nintendo. A quote from the CMA regarding Microsoft's supposed 10-year commitment to making Call of Duty available on Nintendo hardware. So leading up to the CMA's decision, Microsoft kind of went on this tour to strike deals with a bunch of different companies, including Nvidia and Sony. Or not Sony, famously not Sony.
Well, they tried though,
Steam,
right? That like
yeah.
they tried to make like some sort of agreements with Sony, and Sony was like, "Nah, we see what you're doing."
Steam, Nintendo, others being like, "Hey, the CMA is worried about Call of Duty." Because that was a point of contention that eventually the CMA walked back. But for a long time, they were really focused on Call of Duty, the potential for that to become exclusive. And so to try to prevent those fears, that Microsoft signed these contracts with all these companies saying, hey, if this deal goes through, we promise that we'll bring Call of Duty to your platforms. And
for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years.
Right.
And Nintendo was one of those companies that they signed it with. And so here's the quote regarding this from that 10-year commitment with Nintendo from the CMA's report. Call of Duty is currently available on 2 gaming consoles, Xbox and PlayStation. We found that these consoles compete closely with each other in terms of content, target audience, and console technology. We found that Nintendo's consoles compete less closely with either of Xbox or PlayStation, generally offering consoles with different technical specifications, and with its most popular titles tending to be more family and child-friendly. Nintendo does not currently offer Call of Duty, and we have seen no evidence to suggest that its consoles would be technically capable of running a version of Call of Duty that's similar to those in Xbox and PlayStation in terms of quality of gameplay and content.
Which, tough to hear.
Yeah.
Tough to hear. Switch can't run Call of Duty. But I guess that is like a little short-sighted in that like, how much longer are we going to be rocking this Switch?
Right. Well, also, Microsoft also tried to get out ahead of these concerns, because we had we mentioned it in an episode, 6 weeks ago. I don't even know at this point. But basically, someone from Microsoft going on the record being like, how would we do it? Well, we have experience scaling with PCs and everything. And so being able to like scale the resolution or frame rate and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. This is definitely not the last word yet. Microsoft and Activision can appeal this decision, and so we'll see what happens.
And also, the CMA is a UK governing organization, so they don't actually have the power to like just straight up block the purchase. They have the power to make the way that functions in the UK weird, that like there may have to be like some spinning off of businesses like just to do business in that specific market.
The way I understand it is that it basically just becomes like a de facto worldwide
interesting
block, basically, because the logistics of doing what you're describing would
be tricky. Yeah,
exactly.
But I mean, what do you spend like $69
Yeah, it's
billion
enormous. It's like $70 billion.
Yeah. So like maybe if it's worth it to you to spend that much money, it's worth it to you also to like untangle whatever headache that comes with.
I think under the current terms of the deal, like it has to close by the end of June, or Microsoft owes Activision Blizzard like $3 billion or something. But they can always renegotiate the terms of those deals at any time. So, and in the US, the FTC is suing to block the merger as well. I don't think on the same grounds as the CMA blocked it in the UK, and that trial is not supposed to start until August. So who knows?
Right. Well, and like with the CMA doing what it's doing, maybe that also gives like other regulatory agencies the like kind of gumption to do the same.
Yeah, we'll see. The EU is supposed to hand down their decision, I think, in the next like 4 weeks or so, the next month or so. So yeah, definitely not the end of this, but will kind of be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. And I feel like this goes without saying, but like I don't really have I mean, I am against like consolidation in kind of any industry. But like this one doesn't. I don't have that many feelings about this, especially from like a video game content perspective. I don't really play Activision Blizzard games outside of like the occasional Diablo or like Lost Vikings. Of course, I'm a big Lost Vikings stan. But like, and then I also don't really play Xbox. So like, it feels weird to be kind of on the outside of this and mostly just being like, oh, I wish that these huge players in the video game space weren't collapsing into one even bigger player. But
yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it is crazy that it's like by far the biggest acquisition in video game history.
And just like in technology,
Yeah,
like it's huge.
And for it to be so peripheral to my own, kind of like gaming habits, I do think one thing that, yes, like Activision, Blizzard, King, if it gets acquired by Microsoft, or more importantly, like doesn't get acquired by Microsoft, I think that would slam the brakes on a lot of consolidation, because we know that EA was kind of like buttoning up themselves to, look, they were shopping themselves around for a while. We know Ubisoft was or is like shopping themselves around. And so
there's like Square Enix, right? Like they sold
persistent
off,
rumors that they're trying to make themselves look more appealing to be acquired. So if this deal is blocked, I think it in that, like, whether this deal would be good or bad for consumers one way or the other, I do think that it would be a good thing for the amount of consolidation that's happening in the video game industry.
If it were blocked, but I mean, maybe at that point they just like realize the upper bound of it, right? Because they obviously Microsoft and Sony do make acquisitions, and maybe they're just like, okay, $70 billion, too much.
Like, right? No, it's
too big of a big of a buy.
Absolutely,
because Square Enix would be way smaller than that.
Yeah.
So I feel like Sony could buy them tomorrow, and like it would be like, oh wow, that's surprising, but fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Mark and I don't know anything really about international business.
No,
but
I know that's shocking listening to this podcast. Well, for the first time in 4 years, Nintendo announced that it will have a presence at Gamescom 2023, being held in Europe later this year, in Germany, even
Cologne, Germany. Just as it is every year. It is this year. It is August 23rd through August 27th. And this is the largest video game convention of its kind in the world. And I think it's interesting to think about this thing in the context of there is no E3. Even when there was going to be an E3, Nintendo was like, we're not doing that. So like, does just like where Gamescom is situated on the calendar, and knowing what we know about Nintendo's releases for the year, we got Tears of the Kingdom in a week and a half, and we would awesome. Like, I just got excited when I said that. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's so crazy. And then Pikmin 4 in July, right? That by the end of August, we're past that event horizon. We don't know what's up for Nintendo for the rest of the year, or like if they're going to start hinting at what's coming next year. Is that new hardware? Whatever. Like, what are those other questions? We don't even have them yet. And Nintendo's never done a like big direct to coincide with Gamescom, and not really revealing. They just have not traditionally had big reveals at this thing, but they're going to this. They weren't going to go to E3. There is no E3. Is this where we see that kind of event?
Yeah, I mean, that would be super cool, assuming that we don't get a similar sort of like reveal in that June time frame that we normally get it during E3. I was also thinking about it in terms of like, because this Nintendo Live event that Nintendo's held in Japan previous years and is bringing to North America for the first time this September.
Right.
Then
we don't really know like the lineup of, or really even the shape
not at all.
Of it. Yeah.
But they haven't announced yet a similar event for Europe. And so
maybe that's this.
Yeah, so that was my thought, but then I was like, well, I mean, they still go to PAX East and stuff, like, you know what I mean? They still go to PAX, so it's not like they're leaving all other conventions behind just to do their own thing in North America. But I don't know, it'll just be interesting to see how much Nintendo begins to, like, again, we, like you said, we don't know what Nintendo Live is in the US this year.
Yeah.
But kind of like see how they evolve that, because if E3 doesn't exist, than having like a Nintendo officially sanctioned where they control.
Yeah,
and we know how much Nintendo loves, controlling like every part of what they do. That it'll be interesting to see how that grows and if it's successful in the US, if we do eventually see something like that in Europe.
Yeah. It's also just like I think we'll be talking about how weird this year is for Nintendo for a while. And I know we've mentioned it before that like, so many of their big things, their big events this year have not been game related. Obviously, this Mario movie and the Super Nintendo World theme park opening in Universal Hollywood is like those are enormous beats of like marketing and and like that are successful, right? Like both the theme park and the movie are successful data points for them. And then we got Tears of the Kingdom in 2 weeks. That's the first like huge game that they're putting out this year, if you don't count Fire Emblem, which I think is probably fair, and Kirby. But yeah, that's the first real like game thing that they're having to push, and it just makes me wonder, like, are we in a slowing down period? Like, are we in like the last like big bangs until they kind of go dormant and then announce new hardware, or like the next phase of whatever? Do we still have other big hits coming down this year and early next?
Yeah, it will be really interesting being able to look back on 2023. And I look forward to being able to do so in 2033 on this podcast when we do a 10-year retrospective. But it'll be really interesting to see, like you're saying, like, was this like a weird year in Nintendo's history, or is it the first of like many years that we are going to see like this? Because Nintendo for a few years now has been talking about how they want to expand the reach of their IP, and so that's why they're like of their characters, and so you're not just experiencing them in games. You are going to the movie, you're going to the theme park, and that is driving you back to buying Nintendo hardware and playing the games. And like you said, to an extremely enormous successful data points for them. And it feels like it's like the beginning of a
it's maybe a sea change.
Yeah, because like Tears of the Kingdom is hugely anticipated as a sequel to Breath of the Wild. The Super Mario Brothers movie has grossed $1 billion and has only been out, like not that long.
26 days.
26 days. And so what is the sequel to like the anticipation or, the excitement for that movie going to be like? It feels like it will just be really interesting to see if how much this was the beginning of something that kind of changed Nintendo's direction.
Yeah. I mean, like a movie makes $1 billion. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're in the business of making live action remakes of Disney movies, or we're in the superhero business, or we're in James Cameron make 5 more Avatar movies, right? Like, that's it is like it's business strategy altering amounts of success.
Yeah, to be your first movie out of the gate, is pretty crazy.
First movie asterisk.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The first Super Mario Brothers movie.
Fresh on the heels of Star Wars Republic Commando game trial for the Nintendo Switch Online subscribers in North America, those same subscribers now have access to Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the NecroDancer from now until May 7th. As always with these game trials, you have access to the full game through the 7th, and then any progress that you make during the trial will carry over to the full game if you buy it.
I messed around with this demo back when it.
I remember.
I mean,
too.
Not even back when it came out, but like
when the demo was released.
Yeah, I guess that's right. That was like a separate time when the demo was released, and I have a hard time sort of marrying the concepts of like the rhythm gameplay with like Zelda action exploration kind of stuff. And I know you can turn off the rhythm component, but then I'm kind of like, why play it? You know. So I don't know. We got a week. Might be fun to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with the demo was very similar to yours. I love the idea of these games, but the gameplay didn't like click for me for whatever reason. That's why this new one with the lane-based combat that we know will eventually portend a Donkey Konga revival is like exciting because that feels more like I can wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And finally, everybody, this is your warning. Keep your guard up. The Legend of Zelda.
Keep your shield up high.
That's right. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has leaked. Retail copies are out there, and spoilers of one variety or another are out in the wild. So be cautious as you explore the internet over the next 10 days. It's just 10 days.
It's just 10 days, then the game is out. But also, like, when the game does come out, then obviously people will be playing it everywhere and posting about it everywhere, and you'll still be in this position where you don't know everything about the game.
It's so tricky.
How long was? What do you think the sort of like statute of limitations is on like spoilers for like the story of Tears of the Kingdom, or like the unique gameplay?
I really don't know. I feel like
to be fair, for us and for our purposes on the show, we will announce spoilers before we make them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. I don't remember having this problem with Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But
and we had Twitter in 2017,
right?
Like,
yeah. We had this show. Like there were a lot of
totally. But I do think that like video game sharing and like Twitch streaming, maybe Twitch streaming was in this place, but to, like the ease with which people were sharing clips everywhere wasn't quite the same. Like I still feel like it wasn't really until 2020 when people were like sharing Animal Crossing clips all the time.
Well, you have TikTok.
Well, you have TikTok too. Yeah, great point.
So yeah, I don't know. I think we'll just collectively as a group and on the Discord just kind of have to like feel it out.
Yeah.
And we have two separate channels, one for Tears of the Kingdom spoilers and non-spoilers. But as far as like, I don't know what the etiquette is, but I have faith that we will arrive at a good place
and that we will respect each other as we go through this. Do you have? Are you taking any like extra measures about like protecting yourself against spoilers, or do you care? Are you seeking them out?
No, I am not seeking them out, and again, my love of Breath of the Wild comes from not like the unexpected in that sense of discovery, and I feel like from my experience of Tears of the Kingdom, that will be a really important part of it. So I am trying to avoid, I read a lot of the previews that came out last week. Speaking of which, we didn't talk about any of the data that data points or news, I guess you would say, that came out of those previews, because none of them were like spoilery. They couldn't talk about a whole bunch.
Right.
But at this point, for me, part of the reason I didn't really want to go into it is because we are so close and that stuff is out there if you want it, and if you don't want it.
I kind of want to just experience it as I explore.
That's how I'm feeling.
That's I've not put in any precautions in place. I've not blocked anything on Twitter. Which there was a little while where I was going through and blocking stuff for when a new Marvel show was coming out, that I'd block WandaVision and whatever, block as many terms as I could think of for 2 days, so I could wait and watch it on whenever I could over the weekend. But I've sort of fallen off that because honestly, if I see something that looks like a spoiler on Twitter, then that is motivation for me to get off, to stop scrolling on Twitter, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, I feel like I am in a social media bubble now. I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah.
I am on Instagram, but it's mostly now to look at pictures of really gross hairless cats. And so it's I feel like I'd have to go out of my way to get spoiled. They're not just going to show up in my timeline because I don't really have one.
Right,
you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah. Well, all right, and that is not a challenge, everyone. You can always email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. All right, Mark, let's close out the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Get in that Discord. People will not be spoiling things in there. It's going to be a super fun time. Email us, get in. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, saying thank you for listening.